I wasn't going to record a podcast today. I tried yesterday and I wasn't happy with it. And then this morning I had a really challenging morning. And so I thought, there's no way I'm going to do a podcast. And then, it's really interesting how life happens, how there are these kind of interesting series of events and things that come in and messages that come in. And I know that it's a divine grace. And interestingly enough, they tend to come in when I stop believing. So I'm going to just dive into it today and just preface it with I'm feeling very raw. I'm feeling very exhausted. You can see, like, I've cried this morning. I took all my makeup off. So here I am, real and raw for you. um, so I got myself ready, my daughter and myself ready to go to school early today because I wanted to give myself enough time to come back and actually have enough time to do all of my work, to actually have a lunch and maybe even have a moment where for 15 minutes I can just take some time for myself before having to drive and get my daughter again. And I kind of am in a groundhog's day, and like yesterday was a day where I just back to back didn't stop until about 9:30, 10 p.m. Once I'd done like my work, my work as a mother, you could say, and then more of my work, and then, stopping for the day. So here I was doing something that I felt like was an act of self-care. Get on the motorway and it's bumper to bumper, just insane traffic. So I decide to take an exit and go a different way, which takes longer. It's more kilometers, but I just thought, okay, I'm going to go that way. Worse. Bumper to bumper construction. It was like everywhere you go. And where I live, the traffic can get very, very bad in the summer, but I'm like, it's not even April. It's not even April. And I already spend, sometimes an hour and a half to 2 hours in the car every day driving my daughter back and forth to school. So I got really triggered because it exasperated me. And I just thought my nervous system actually can't take this. I have been without a long-term sturdy home for over a year now. Dealing with, I don't know if you can hear it. Hopefully you can't. Construction noise. Like I've never, I've never been in such a beautiful place that is like heaven and hell at the same time, because heavenly for a lot of things, and then hell with just the traffic and the construction and the noise and it's just been, my nervous system is really hanging on very, very, very fine threads. And being a single mother and doing everything on my own and not in an easy way, right? It's not easy to be where I am. So I got triggered. I got really triggered, and I felt, well, beyond just exasperated, I felt abandoned. I felt abandoned again. It's like I came back to this loop, which is what happens when I'm so tired and my nervous is drilling over there now. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. When my nervous system can't take it anymore because I'm physically tired, I'm energetically tired, I'm emotionally tired, I'm holding everything on my own. And the things they don't feel like they're really opening up. The home isn't arriving, the partner isn't arriving, the community that I really wanted to be in isn't arriving. And I know I'm not the only person that's dealing with all three of those things, right? I know that a lot of people are experiencing this. There's a huge hunger for tribe, and people aren't finding it. There are so many single women, and they're not finding the kind of man that they want to be with. Everything is changing, right? Everything, the meaning of what we're doing here and why we're doing it is changing, and things are collapsing. The whole system is collapsing. And part of that is all of our beliefs and paradigms and the way that we've done it. It's just all crumbling, and it's totally fucking destabilizing and at times exhausting. And time is moving at lightning speed right now. So we're in a pressure cooker, to say the least. But my personal story was, where the fuck are you, God? Where are you? Like, if you're there, prove it. Because I feel so alone. And actually, I want to use words of a dear friend of mine who's also going through some stuff. She's like, I feel like I'm in a one-woman army. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know what that feels like. I really like that. It's like that image of just, there's so many of us that feel like we're going through this 3D matrix right now, and kind of saying, what the fuck is going on? And feeling like the weight of the world is on our shoulders and on our shoulders alone. And I know that everyone is going through this, but it's like individual. And some people, they do have a partner, or they do have a community, and like, God bless you. Like, I never use those words, but like, God bless you that you have that, because, for those of us that don't, it's like you are carrying a heck of a lot on your shoulders right now. So I was actually in tears, because I cannot describe to you the exhaustion that my nervous system is feeling right now. And it feels unrelenting and never ending. And it's only going to get worse, because the traffic is going to get worse as more tourists come. And I was looking up at the sky, like, where are you? Like, where are you, God? Like, if you exist, prove yourself, because this feels like I feel so abandoned and unsupported. And this is not the first time, right? I was here like a month ago, the same freaking thing. And it's like, God, what lesson? What is it that I'm needing to learn? What needs to change? And basically it's very clear, just on a practical level, like, I can't send my daughter to the school anymore. It's killing me. It's literally, the drive is killing me. I can't do it. So it is forcing me to look in a different direction. And if that direction doesn't work, then I actually need to leave the geographic area that I'm in altogether and start anew, which is so overwhelming and exhausting and tiring. And the idea of doing it alone still is painful, to say the least. Anyway, the whole thing took me about an hour and a half to get my daughter to school and to come back. And I just was like, what, So I make myself a cup of tea. I didn't have a client this morning. So I make myself a cup of tea, and I get on my phone and I look at like my, who I'm subscribed to on YouTube, to see if there's any interesting videos. And I'm not kind of really interested in any of them at all, to be honest. But I go on to Pam Gregory and I'm like, okay, I'll just watch her recent video, even though I'm like, I can't be fucked by astrology right now, because I'm like, it all sucks. It's all intense. It's not going to change. Like, it just feels like I was in that mental space. And then I don't know, for some reason I'm listening to it, and it's literally the first minute or two, and I scroll down a little bit, and then there's this really random video that says the old system is collapsing, and something, a near-death experience. And something just in me told me, like, watch that. So I started watching that, and it was so fascinating to hear this man's story. And I'm going to tell you what was even more fascinating is because when he was recounting his story, his life like looked really good on the surface, but he said he was a total, disaster, train wreck behind the scenes. He was like addicted to coke, and was partying a lot, and just had all these kids and was not doing well at all. And he said one day he all of a sudden had this, like, he was completely compelled to turn on the television. And he's like, I don't watch TV. He has a TV because he had like teenage kids, but he actually had to ask his 16-year-old daughter, how do you turn this on? He's looking at the remote going like, I don't know how you turn on the television. So he turns it on, and it opens up to this program, which is like this show about kind of intervention, where like, families come in and they have a professional there, and it's like a professional videotaped intervention, of people that, are drug addicts or whatever, something's up in their lives. And he's watching 10 minutes of this, and he feels like he's watching like 10 minutes of his own life. And he's like, fuck this. I'm not watching this. It's like terrible. Right. So he turns it off. He goes off and does something else, but then he comes back and he's compelled to turn on the TV again. He turns it on again, and the same program starts over again. And he's like, that doesn't just happen. He has no recording device. Like, a show like that doesn't just go back to the beginning like that, So he's like, okay, clearly I'm meant to watch this. And he watches the whole thing, and it's like he's like watching a disaster, and he's basically watching his life. It was the same thing, like a guy that's very successful but is a total drug addict, and neglecting his family, and they're trying to get him help, and he's totally in denial. So he watches this, and instead of going out partying, which is what his plan was, he ended up going to bed. Long story short, he has this whole experience of, he had been asleep for something like 18 hours, woke up in bed with like the sheets completely wet, drenched because of whatever he was going through, sweating. He was like, he was seeing almost like a review of his life, almost like a near-death experience where you review your life. And it basically showed him so much suffering, all the suffering that he had experienced as a child, the way that he hurt and abused people, as a terrible partner, as a drug addict, as all of these things. And so for him, basically, it was an invitation of like, enough of this. You're done. This is done. And from that point, he completely changed his life. He went and got help, professional help, therapy, built his spiritual practice, went into coaching because he wanted to be of service to people, wrote books. But then fast forward 11 years later, he finds himself incredibly ill in the ICU, in like that biologically contained room. And he has a proper near-death experience. And he's in a coma for 17 days. And he's talking about having this conversation with God, and one of the things that came through was, we are all made with absolute intention and love. We all have a purpose. We all have an incredible amount of support, unseen support, and that we all have a mission. And we came here to fulfill that mission. We were excited about that mission. And that we have these incredible capacities. And he kind of asked, God, like, well, why then do we come and settle for this mediocrity? Like, why are we here just like with breadcrumbs, right? Crumbs, instead of being in the vastness of our being and really living out our mission and our purpose. And he said, I don't know if brevity is something that's revered on the other side, but he said he responded with 4 words: because you don't believe. And that for me was like one of those aha moments, another aha moment. It's the second one that I've had maybe in this last month. Because what I recognize myself, well, if you rewind to the beginning of what I was saying, me looking at the sky through the windshield, being like, where the fuck are you, God? If you exist, prove it. And then here I am, kind of similar to him, like going on to watch something I don't really want to watch, but finding this guy's video, listening for half an hour to his story, and him saying these words around because you don't believe. And I'm like, oh God, here I am. And there's the message, and there's God saying, yeah, you're not believing in me. And the thing is, it's really easy to not believe when shit ain't going right, when it's not going well, when it's hard. And for me, I know that I have a belief where I feel abandoned by God. Even though coming into this world, and I literally say coming into this world because I remember being in the birth canal and I remember being born, I knew what I was getting into. I was awakened to, I had that consciousness, I had that remembrance in that moment. And I've always had a very strong belief connection to not only the universe and spirit, but I also, before it was a trend, this was like, decades ago, knew that for me, I knew that I was connected to the Pleiades. I knew that I was not from this planet. I knew that. And I also knew that it's hard to be human sometimes. And there's been many times over my life where I felt really homesick. Like I just want to go home. I don't want to be here. And yet, with all of that, I still have moments where I totally doubt and I don't believe in God, or I feel angry at God and I feel abandoned by God. And I feel like, what the fuck is the point? What is the point of my being here? Like, I didn't come down here to be stuck in traffic and just drive and do more driving and do all of this mundane shit. And it's not that I'm being all like a princess. Like, I don't want to, it's actually just too much for one person. And I didn't come to a planet to live a life where I really genuinely have always wanted to be of service. I remember as a 4-year-old going, I want to have a positive effect on humanity. At 4, that's what I'm thinking. I want to have a positive effect on humanity. And I thought that was going to happen as a dancer. And then when I couldn't dance anymore, then I thought it would happen as a choreographer, or, through my art, through, acting, through something that I knew I could give when I was on the stage to like connect people into their soul. I used to think it was connect them into their humanity, but actually through your humanity, you connect to your soul. And that's what felt purposeful for me. And it was really painful when, that I always ran into a wall with something, an injury, an illness. And of course, now I look back and can see it was all a teacher. It was all grist for the mill. It all gave me the wisdom, that I feel like I can embody now. But, in my 40s, sometimes I'm like, what, what's happening? What is going on? And especially, over a year of not having a home, and when you think that your life is going to be in a certain place and you're not there yet. And that causes us a lot of suffering, because when the timing isn't in alignment, or when the timing is taking longer than we expect or hoped it would, that's when we start to lose faith. And so every time I'm having these moments recently where I lose faith, something comes in that is so random. It's not actually random, but it appears random as far as like my everyday life trajectory, right? That I know those are the moments where God is like, I'm here. And I'm just using the word God because you can call it whatever. I interchange the word all the time. God, spirit, universe, creator of all that is. But today I'm going to use God. Because sometimes I wonder, have I been caught in the kind of mind fuckery of the inverted matrix, which is like, there's only the God that we're going to let you have access to, but everything is the inversion of the matrix. So it's like, it's the false matrix, right? And everything that actually is pure and beautiful, they have a way of turning it upside down and inside out. And it's the disconnect. And I remember Kelly, oh God, there was an amazing YouTube video that I'd shared on a podcast ages ago of this woman talking about how one of the most detrimental thing that has happened to us as a society and cultures that we've been um, made to believe that there is nothing godly or spiritual, or miraculous, and that has damaged us, that has hurt us so badly. And actually, one of the things that I've really enjoyed about listening to the Telepathy Tapes podcast is that it feels like home to me, because it is speaking of what we can access, who we truly are. And it is tapping into a God-like energy, frequency, existence. So, what do I want to say? Sometimes I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this life. I feel like I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to listen to my heart. I know the feeling of what I want to create. I'm clearly really being challenged and tested right now with the noise, with the lack of home, with the driving, with doing everything on my own. And here's the thing, when we get triggered, when we get to that point of such exasperation and exhaustion and feeling like we've just been dropped, and not only dropped, but run over forward and then in reverse, it's going to bring up all of the other stuff that you have underneath that's still brewing somehow. And so my trigger is still, God, it feels vulnerable to share it. Okay, let me preface this with something. When we don't process something, or it's not that we don't process it, but when something cannot be processed, or what I'm finding specifically for me is when something hasn't been dealt with the truth, the authenticity, and the integrity of that thing. And it's therefore not really resolved, maybe because it's beyond your capacity to resolve it, because most situations involve more than one person. I've recognized that for me, it's hard for that to not come out of my system. It takes so much inner alchemization of that, because when something involves someone else, I'm the type of person that I don't like to sweep things under the rug. I'm the type of person that's like, let's look at the elephant in the room. Let's face it. Let's talk about it. Let's do something with it. Right? I wouldn't be walking my talk if I didn't do that. what still gets me, even though it was 7 years ago, is I don't like the way that I got divorced. And the reason why I don't like it is because the intention was to consciously uncouple. We even both read the book, but he didn't do it consciously. Because he thought he did, but he went into absolute denial, went straight into another relationship, had no respect for me and our community that we had built. And I know that maybe when I share that, it sounds like, oh, Corinne, you need to let it go, or maybe you're just, but when you've been with someone for almost a decade and they don't acknowledge that, and they don't respect what that was, and they don't, when we don't respect an ending to something, everyone fucking wants closure, right? Why? Because it feels respectful. It's tying the knot to the thread and bowing down to it and say, okay, that was that sweater, and now that sweater is complete. But if you leave the sweater without the knot at the end, guess what? The whole thing is going to unravel. And that unraveling takes away from whatever it was. And even if what it was not easy, was not always very pleasant, you still want to fucking finish the sweater, right? And I'm the type of person that, for better or worse, if I lose respect for someone, it's pretty hard for me to regain that respect. And maybe that's unfair, but it's for me, it's like integrity is so important and honesty is so important. And so when something is wrapped in lies or outside of integrity or outside of respect, with the illusion that it is being wrapped in all of that, I can't digest that very well because I feel like it's absolute bullshit. So, why am I sharing all of this? Because we all might have a version of that, right? Where something wasn't really able to be resolved in our lives or completed, or that there was enclosure. And you know what? That's okay. That's a part of life too. I'm learning that. And it all makes us into who we are today. It's like the undercurrent of our life that's taking us somewhere. And there is something, what this man was sharing. And let me just say something about this video. So after that, he said his name at the end, and he said, there's only two of us in the world that has this name, me and my son. So he's like, you can Google me and you will find thousands of things because I'm the only one. Couldn't freaking remember his name. I remembered his first name, but I didn't get the second one right. I even remember the name of the episode wouldn't come up. So it's again one of those things where it's like God's like, nope, it's just the message for you. You don't need to look into it anymore. It's just the message for you. I wanted to put the link on here so people could watch it, but it was clearly just a message for me. But one of the things that he was talking about is, all sorts of shit is going to happen here. All sorts of shit. He's like, I don't even care about predictions because it's all just going to happen. What you do have choice on is within, or your free agency, your free will is, what are you going to choose to do with what's in front of you? So I'm sitting here this morning feeling like I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm over the traffic. I'm over this life. I need to make a change. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel abandoned. I have no psychic hit as to what to do next, other than I'm not taking my daughter into school tomorrow, and I'm actually going to go somewhere else and research if there's a different school in a different area, because I just can't. I'm just done. I'm done with what I've been doing. It's too much. And here I am hearing that it's like, yeah, I know this, where we have absolute agency and free will and choices. How do I want to respond to what's happening right now? And he did say something that it's like, we grow through this experience, and we grow through resistance. And I was like, fuck. Because I know that has been the edge where I'm in the resistance and I'm in the fighting back, because I'm a warrior inside. I really am a warrior inside, but I'm also tired of being a warrior. And there's also a part of me that like equally can be very feminine and open and receptive. And I so want to be in that place because to me, it's just much more beautiful. And I think we've done the warrior bit for like thousands of years now. And I really want to let that one go. And yet it's like sometimes I have to meet that point of like that, hitting the wall and fighting against and kind of like F you to God, to then go into that place of just complete surrender. And then going, now what? Now what? And it makes me emotional because we try so hard, don't we? We try so hard to live life. And one of the things I'd shared in the episode that I didn't put out yesterday about the telepathy tapes was this was so beautiful. There was, a mother and her son that have been telepathically communicating. Her son is now 38. He's autistic and non-verbally, 38 years. And they create music. I mean, he comes into her, he's taught her how to lucid dream, and that's how they communicate. Anyway, it's amazing. It's episode 8 if you want to listen to it. But one of the things that the mother was saying is that, words are so limiting. Words are so limiting. Whereas telepathy, when you communicate on that level, there's no hiding. There's no sarcasm. There's no white lies. Like you can only be in truth. And that kind of communication also, it's like it gives you everything in its purest intention of what is wanting to be communicated. And words are so limiting. They're so limiting for our experience. She's saying if somebody writes down the word Christmas, it's just Christmas. You can associate it with things. But she says when somebody telepathically sends you that, you get everything all at once. You get the Christmas tree. You get the snow outside. You get the meal. You get the presents. You get the feeling of what that word means as a symbol for an experience. And why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because, however many years ago, I was writing about the return of the divine feminine, which is really just the recalibration and the rebalancing of the divine feminine and masculine and coming into harmony with ourselves. It's creating that vertical axis where we are connected to gut, heart, mind, source, and then the horizontal axis, which is like when everything is aligned vertically and we're in our heart, then it's like this, the portal opens and we are open to the whole field, to the whole quantum. And she was talking about it as far as like bandwidths. The first bandwidth is communicating as we do today. The second bandwidth is communicating how her and her son communicate. The third bandwidth is what these autistic children do, where they're tapping into the field. They're speaking to each other through the field. They're downloading things through the field. That's why, they're called savants, but it's like they can know how to play all musical instruments, sing perfect, on perfect key pitch, speak 8-10 different languages. It's all because they are connecting into consciousness. They're connecting directly into the field. And I think with all of these old systems collapsing and what this remembering is, and this rising of consciousness is literally just expanding into the outer levels of these bandwidths that are bringing us back home to who we truly are. Now, why the hell am I saying this? It seems like such a massive tangent from what I'm talking about, is because we have to surrender how we're clinging on to everything that's in this 3D matrix that is causing us suffering. So for me, the choice is right now, I don't want to live where I have to be in traffic. I fucking hate it. To me, it is like grating on my nervous system. It's not what I feel life is about for me. Other people might be able to stomach it. That's fine. For me, it's like, nope, I need to go back and be in nature. I need a lot more quiet. I need a lot more peace. I need human connection. Simple, small, don't have to have loads of friends, but just a few. I want my daughter to be in a school where she's on the earth, dealing with the earth, literally. So I know what I want and I know the feeling, right? And so it's like, why do we continue to try and go into the slipstream of the mainstream when actually, when sometimes we have to hit that fucking wall? So we go, you know what? I give up. I give up. I stop. I let go. I drop everything. In telepathy, the mother was saying, when she can feel that her son wants to communicate with her, she has to stop and empty out her mind. You have to empty out your mind and come into just the sensation and energy of your body, and then you can receive the messages. That's what we need to move into. Empty all the fucking clutter of society. Because I know for me that when I can tune in and I have the conversation with God, universe, source, spirit, creator of all that is, and I'm asking for signs and I'm receiving signs and I'm seeing visuals, and when I'm in more of my psychic attunement, is when I'm still and quiet. And it's probably the reason why I cannot handle traffic right now, because it feels like abrasive and abusive, and like what is the word for it? Starts with an I. It's when something has come into you and you don't want it. You don't want it. It's so invasive that you're just like, I can't take it anymore. And I have to heed that. And the alternative right now is not good, because it means that my daughter might not go to school, and I have no time to do my work. But maybe sometimes we do just have to believe, like he said, we just have to believe that we're stuck in mediocrity because we don't believe that there's anything greater. And sometimes we do have to get angry at it so that we let go of the resistance. And maybe it is just epic fucking faith, like I've been talking about. And I keep on being recycled back into this because that's kind of how it happens with life. I saw a really funny reel of a woman, bless her, that was trying to go up an escalator, and she kept on falling down and getting twisted and being sent up and like falling back down and being twisted. And the moral of the story was like, yeah, that's life. You're going to keep on cycling around until you get the lesson, and then you can graduate and go up the escalator to the next level. I'm laughing, but in the midst of it, that it's so painful. It's so frustrating, right? And you're going to get mad at it sometimes. I do. I was cursing and screaming and shouting and giving the middle finger yet again to the sky, to God. And I need to somehow find the resolve in that of like, why do I keep on getting so pissed off? Why do I feel so abandoned and not rejected, but just abandoned, like let down? And yet the obstacle is the way. We have to open the door and walk through it. We have to go through the forest, whatever it is that we're confronted with. It's really moving through it. And then I think when we move through it, the illusion crumbles and shatters, and then that's when we let go. And sometimes I think people that have these near-death experiences, not that I'm wishing it upon myself or anyone at all, but he was saying, and this just came out of his mouth when he was asked this at a conference, they said, what is the biggest thing that's changed within you since having this near-death experience? He says, I'm no longer afraid of anything. It's like, I'm not afraid of anything. I've died. I know what's on the other side. There's nothing on or of this earth that can scare him. That's true liberation. And we've been taught and we've been kept in fear. And we've been disconnected from God. And so, of course, there's going to be even more fear. And then the fear of death and non-existence, because it feels like there's nothing, right? There's nothing to hold you. There's nothing on the other side. And that's what's been so detrimental, as this woman Kelly was talking about. So I'm going to try and have faith, y'all. And I don't know what's next. And all I can tell you is I'm so damn tired. But I have no choice to keep on going. But I'm going to go in a different direction. I don't know what that is yet. But it's like, okay, tomorrow I'm not driving her to school that way. I'm going to actually go this way. And I'm going to go do some research. And I'm going to go see what is available in an area that feels much more nourishing to me. And if that reaches a dead end, then it's like, okay, may something else open up, and I will get, in my car and go there. And the honest truth is I don't want to do it anymore. I certainly don't want to do it alone anymore, but here I am. And God, I'd love to get to the point of where this guy got, where it's like he just lives every day with joy, and sometimes shit doesn't go his way. And that's like, whatever, it's okay. How are you going to choose to respond to that? I still haven't mastered it. Sometimes I'm really good and sometimes I ain't. I really ain't. I'm a passionate person, so I can get like fiery about things, And yet that's part of my human experience. And at the end of the day, it's returning to love, returning to self-acceptance, returning to compassion, returning to forgiveness, returning to patience, returning to being, returning to heart, and learning to believe. That's where I'm at. No invitation today, just like a human, here I am trying to have this human experience. Sometimes I can do it gracefully. Sometimes I fumble as fuck. But remembering that I am soul, remembering, as this man was saying, we are all made with absolute intention and love, and that we all have a purpose and a mission and a reason to being here. We've been told that we're so insignificant. Oh, you're just on this tiny little pale blue dot in the middle of nowhere. You're just a speck. And you're this even tinier speck on that speck. No. You are so fucking amazing and significant. And Earth matters. The cosmos are all have their eyes on us. Because this is an amazing experience and opportunity, and we are incredible beings, but we've been told that we're not. We've simply forgotten. And so this is a time of remembrance. And part of that remembrance is we've got to remember what we believe in. And only you can feel that. It doesn't even need to be in any kind of scripture. Only you can feel that. And ask for proof. I asked for proof and it came through a YouTube video, apparently. That I am learning there's always a conversation there. Always. We are constantly in conversation. But sometimes we need to clear the air by getting angry at it, and then we let go, and then grace comes in. There's the space for grace to come in. That's what I learned today, and I'm continuing to learn. I'm humbled by life. Taking deep breaths and trying to walk it as authentically and honestly and humbly as possible. That's all. Take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. Bye. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.